Yo, what is up guys, Grim here, and in today's video we're going to be diving into the newly released Endgame challenge mode for the simulated universe, the Swarm Disaster. It expands upon simulated universe with new mechanics and features, has a ton of rewards in store like Stellar Jades, trace materials, and of course leveling mats. But most interestingly, it offers a pretty big challenge for those looking to test their account. And that's what we're going to be focusing on in this video. I've gone ahead and tested everything I can with the Swarm Disaster, and I'm here to give you my top tips for getting things done, getting those rewards, and ensuring your account's going to have the best time possible. First up though, what's the difference between the normal simulated universe and the Swarm Disaster? Well, everything is pretty much exactly as you remember it, with a few additions, with one major exception. The addition of a massive game board system. This is called a plane, and it gives you a ton of combat bonuses and freedom to navigate the simulated universe. In normal simulated universe, you'd be used to choosing between two separate options at the end of a stage to decide where you want to go. But in Swarm Disaster, you'll instead be taken out of the game and to the plane to decide where you want to navigate to. The plane is made up of a ton of these hexagonal spaces. These are called domains, and are traditional simulated universe stages, a lot of which you're already familiar with. You can view all the different domains that you can encounter using this question mark here. A lot of these are pretty similar to the normal simulated universe, but you will notice a few new faces here and there like the adventure domain, so definitely check it out. There is also an enhancement system which can make domains harder or grant additional rewards. This can also be worth reading up on because some of these are pretty juicy. When it's your turn to move after completing a domain, you'll be able to move between any of the 3 domains in front of your team on the plane. When you decide to choose a domain though, make sure it's the one you want because you won't be able to back out later. Additionally, after you move it, all the domains you didn't choose and the ones behind you will collapse, meaning they can no longer be navigated to. In order to win, your goal is to make it to the end of the plane and fight the end boss, picking up as many blessings as well as bonuses for your team along the way from each of the domains you encounter. But don't take too long. Every time you enter a new domain by moving around on the plane, your countdown will reduce by 1. As long as your countdown doesn't reach 0, you've got nothing to worry about. But as soon as it does, every new domain you move to will start accumulating planar disarray, which is a pretty big debuff to your team and is gonna make things a lot harder. The more of it you have, the more scary it becomes, and it's gonna make enemies deal a whole lot more damage to you, and you deal a whole lot less damage to them. So it's definitely something you want to avoid having in high amounts. In order to avoid planar disarray, it's always safest to chart the fastest possible route to the boss through as many valuable domains as you can muster. On top of this new navigation system, all of the existing paths as well as the new propagation path have been upgraded and granted new bonuses, but most importantly a way to interact with the new game board or plane with unique modifiers. To learn more, let's take a look at the destruction path. Each path has a dimension effect and continuous effect. The dimension effect will allow you to manipulate the plane in special ways that benefits your path. The destruction variant of this turns 2 domains on the plane into elite domains. These are harder to beat, but also grant better rewards, and are definitely something you'll be interested in. Each path also has a continuous effect that asks you to complete a certain set of objectives when navigating the plane to gain an infinitely stacking bonus that persists throughout combat. The destruction variant of this is as follows. For every battle won, increase damage dealt by all allies by 8%. These are individual battles, so every single enemy group you slay, you will get a permanent 8% damage increase while in your current run. This can get out of control real quick and is definitely something you'll want to prioritize. Furthermore, the destruction path also has a continuous effect stating that after you beat an elite domain, you will gain an additional blessing. So the overall playstyle for destruction is to beat as many enemies and as many elite enemies as possible and stack that damage bonus up really high. After completing a domain, before choosing a new one to move to on the plane, you'll first need to interact with a communing device. Doing so will ask you to roll your special path dice. Each path's dice is completely different and aimed at giving you a better chance at stacking up your unique continuous effect. When rolling the dice after completing every domain, you can get quite a few different outcomes, of which there's 3 different rarities. Blue is pretty common, purple is uncommon, and gold is quite rare. Each dice outcome will either grant you a one-off combat benefit which persists throughout an entire domain, or the opportunity to manipulate the plane in a special way corresponding to your path. The blue destruction dice outcomes are a good example of this. The first one allows you to convert any non-boss domain into a combat domain, allowing you to stack up your continuous effect much easier. The other blue option grants you a 50% damage increase when entering combat in the next domain you enter. The first purple outcome allows you to enhance an already existing combat domain, making all the blessings you get from it already upgraded. The second one allows you to gain additional blessings whenever you enter a combat domain on the next move. And finally, the culmination of it all, the rarest dice outcome, will allow you to choose any combat domain on the entire plane and immediately get the rewards from it and complete it without even having to travel to it. So dice effects are pretty powerful, and after you play a bit of Swarm Disaster, you'll get the opportunity to reroll and cheat on the dice. Rerolling the dice does just that. You'll get a different outcome which you can choose from. But cheating will allow you to guarantee any outcome you want on the dice. Let's pick that really strong destruction one from earlier here. So we're definitely getting that, and as soon as we move to the game board, we can cherry pick this incredibly difficult elite and enhanced tile here and immediately just get the rewards from it. Pretty damn good if I do say so myself. After reaching a boss domain and defeating it, you'll move to a brand new plane. There's a total of 3 planes overall, and if you beat them all, you beat the entire Swarm Disaster encounter. The final thing you'll want to know is when approaching a boss domain in plane 1 and 2, you're actually given a choice of which boss you want to fight. You can see here in the background, we can fight either the Searing Prowler or Guardian Shadow. You can choose the one which is easier for your team, but there's also another thing to consider. Depending on which boss you fight, you'll actually gain a benefit or bonus against the final boss fight located in plane 3, the Swarm. Here, we can see that if we defeat the Searing Prowler, the Swarm will be inflicted with Fire Weakness, but if we take the Guardian Shadow, they'll be inflicted with Ice Weakness. The first plane will always inflict an Elemental Weakness, but the second plane will have an even more powerful debuff you can apply to the enemy, so it's definitely worth checking these out, and potentially considering going for a harder boss if they have a good bonus against the final boss. Alright, now that we understand the mechanic, it's time for some tips and tricks to ensure that you can get all the rewards from this mechanic as easy and fast as possible. Tip number 1 is focus on filling out your Communing Trail a little bit before heading to higher difficulties. Going into the Communing Trail and Way of the Pathstrider, you can find a ton of objectives which you can complete. Completing these objectives will give you special Communing Trail points, which when you go to the Communing Trail, you'll notice they give you massive bonuses depending on how many you have of them. Some of these are truly game warping, and the cheat and reroll system from earlier on the dice actually comes from here. So ensuring you have a good amount of them, probably around 10 of each, is going to guarantee that you have a much easier time completing this content, especially at higher difficulties. Most of the objectives can be completed on difficulty 3, so that's what I'd recommend trying to tackle before going to difficulty 4 and 5. Filling out the Communing Trail and getting certain amounts of points in each path is also the requirement for unlocking a lot of the story components and Stellar Jades of this event. So you're hitting 2 birds with 1 stone. You can check how many points you need in each path by highlighting the diamonds here. Tip number 2 is make sure you pick a path which corresponds to the strengths of your team, but also the goal you're trying to achieve. If you're trying to complete a Pathstrider mission which requires you to kill trotters, make sure you pick Hunt because it grants you a bunch of extra trotters on your domains. It's worth noting that all of the paths are viable and have their own strengths and weaknesses. Paths like Preservation and Abundance are actually fantastic for survival, so if you're having some trouble with that, definitely check them out. They've got some pretty reasonable offensive capabilities as well. Generic paths like the Hunt and Destruction are also fantastic, but more specific paths like Remembrance, Nihility, Elation, and Propagation can be some of the strongest for your specific account. So ensure you check out all the paths and give them a go so you understand which one suits your playstyle and account the best. Tip number 3 is bring more defensive units than you're used to. Higher difficulties hit pretty damn hard, so bringing a combination of an abundance and a preservation unit really does make things a whole lot safer and easier. You can also pick up a lot larger range of blessings thanks to being able to go for abundance and preservation blessings, both of which have great utility if you're trying to survive a little bit longer. Tip number 4 is make sure you check out the bonuses you're getting from your Communing Trail. An example of this is the Hunt Trail. You get a ton of crit rate, 18% at max rank to be exact. Meaning if you don't need as much crit on your gear, you can start to move some gear pieces around while still maintaining what you're used to, potentially granting you even more damage. Tip number 5, diminishing returns. In the Swarm Disaster, you get massive increases to most of your stats. Increased damage, crit rate, crit damage, as well as attack. Meaning characters that bring buffs similar to that are a little bit less valuable because you already have so much of it. Now there's a few things which are absent from blessings as well as the dice bonuses, and that's impact on enemies. You don't get many bonuses which shred enemies' defense, resistances, or make them take increased damage. Meaning comparatively, Nihility units become a little bit more valuable compared to Harmony units, so consider bringing Silverwolf and Pella and giving them a go even if you already are used to Bronya or Tinyu. Tip number 6, consider more double damage compositions. Thanks to what we just discussed and you getting a metric ton of boosts to pretty much all your stats, you can run a lot more viable double damage compositions. You're also going to have a lot more opportunity to get a lot more skill points thanks to the simulated universe blessings. So compositions that include characters like Kafka and Sampo, or maybe Clara and Blade, are going to become a whole lot more powerful, so don't be afraid to experiment. Tip number 7 is make sure you're on the lookout for incredibly powerful defensive blessings. There'll be a list of most of the good ones over on Prydwen.gg in the guide linked down below. Here's a couple examples though. This one here gives you the ability to share all damage between all characters, making one-shots a thing of the past. In addition to that, the enhanced effect when you upgrade it makes it so the entire team takes 15% less damage. That's a huge deal in higher difficulties. This one is also another great example, giving the ability to revive one character when they die, meaning you can take one loss in a battle and it's just fine. This one is a complete game changer as well. Tip number 8 and our final tip here is when completing the Pathfinder achievements, I used a specific path and difficulty. In terms of difficulty, I use difficulty 3 for all challenges, but if you ever encounter a challenge which you aren't getting progress on, bump it up to difficulty 4 and you'll start getting progress. The path I used is the Path of the Hunt. A lot of the challenges ask you to complete stuff within a certain amount of time, or a certain amount of movements, and also some of them require you to slay trotters. The Path of the Hunt is great because it allows you to get a ton of trotters first and foremost, but also allows you to freely move across the board using teleportation abilities here. You can see, allies can move to any domain to the closest 3 rows, so you can cherry pick specific tiles when you need them and how you need them. The Destruction Path is also good for any combat related encounters, so you can also consider that one as well. But overall, those should be your top picks for getting stuff done fast. Use difficulty 3 or 4. Before we finish, a quick bonus tip for those trying to push higher difficulties. Try and get your Resonance Interplay online as fast as possible, as long as it benefits your build. What's a Resonance Interplay? Let me take you through it. Your Path Resonance is your bonus ability that activates when you get 3 blessings of the path you chose. So after getting 3 Hunt blessings, I get the Hunt Path Resonance. Traditionally, you can upgrade it by choosing one of 3 upgrades when you get to 6, 10, and 14 Hunt blessings for Hunt specifically. But a new feature allows you to gain upgrades to your Resonance when getting blessings from other types. There's only 2 types that resonate with your chosen path, so make sure you check them out. You can easily do so by coming in here and checking in the dice and clicking Path Resonance. We can see here that Hunt resonates with Abundance and Elation. When you get 3 blessings of either of those types, you will activate an Interplay. And we can see here the Abundance Interplay with Hunt will add a 50% heal to the entire team when you activate the Hunt Resonance. That's a massive deal and well worth getting, especially on those higher difficulties. Here you can see with Elation, you get a speed increase, which is also a huge deal when using that Resonance. So it's definitely worth picking these up. Take a look which ones are strong for you and prioritize picking them as fast as possible. You can get both of the interplays so you don't have to worry about choosing, and you can stack them on top of each other. Just to make sure it's clear, you need 3 of your chosen path and 3 of the others, and then you immediately get the interplay and you're ready to go. Hopefully you guys are excited about this new endgame content and you learned something new. Good luck with all your challenges and getting those rewards, and until next time, cheers.